एक मिनट बस हम सिर्फ लाइव हो रहे हैं।
हो गए हैं।
हो गए। तो good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all to the almost last year-end session that we current financial year-end session that is based on tax planning, forensic accounting, and other discussions that we will be having, and basically more on tax planning, the year-end sessions that we have for our corporates, private limited companies. Some people have listed companies also in our alumni, and for the small ones that we have partnership and limited liability partnership companies. So, but first of all, I would like to ask Ashish Chaudhary to invite for observing the 2 minute silence for the alumni that we lost. So, Ashish bhai, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm Ashish Chaudhary from 13th batch, and 14th Feb was 13th batch reunion at Udaipur. 16th Feb we all departed. 20th Feb was Nakul's birthday, and 27th Feb we got the sad news that our beloved friend Nakul passed away in a tragic incident. An incident that was seen live by his wife. He was one of the funniest guys of our batch, and always ready to help anyone. Never knew that God would snatch him so early from us. Our reunions would never be the same again without him. We'll miss you, Nakul. May his soul rest in peace. I'd like all of you to observe 2 minute silence and we pay tribute to him. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.
So, thank you, Ashish bhai. Now I would like to introduce our speakers first. We have the pretty lady, CS Chesta Kaushik, who started her own CS firm named as Chesta Kaushik and Associates. Without making any investment, she invested just her mind and built this firm. We have the handsome gentleman, Aman Khandelwal, who is a CA who specializes in NGO and charitable organizations and has certifications in forensic accounting, formation and registration of charitable trust, and even international taxation. So, Aman bhai, we would like to start with you first. All over to you.
Thank you, Nimit, for the introduction. Good evening, alumni. And thank you, the Alumni Association, for giving me this opportunity to talk on the topic that I practice in. And wait, I'm just sharing my screen. Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay. So the topic that was allocated to us is quite extensive. So Chesta, Didi and I, we have tried to, kind of mutually decide on what topics needs to be covered, which would be useful for a lot of people, including right from individuals to companies, including tax deductions and other similar areas. To start with, let us start with the income tax slabs, which are applicable for individuals. Now, please note that in this budget, the new slabs that were introduced in the new regime are applicable from the next financial year and not for the year that we are currently in. So for the purpose of taxation for financial year 22-23, the rates given here in the left-hand side, new regime would be applicable to us. Okay, but now it will be a very subjective issue for an individual to select which regime to opt for. Because in the new regime, as you all know, certain type of deductions are not available to individuals. And few of the major common deductions that an individual usually claims, which are not available in the new regime, are listed on the right-hand side of the slide. For example, whenever a person takes a home loan, usually he pays the interest on it, which is allowed up to 2 lakh rupees in the old regime, which is not allowed in the new regime. For example, the other tax exempt investments like ATC for LIC, repayment of housing loan, ATD for medical insurance are also not available in the new regime. So depending upon your type of investments, your type of income that you have earned, you will have to decide it while filing your return of income, which regime do you need to select to. Now, one thing is to be noted that till now, the option to switch between the old and the new regime is applicable for all the individuals who are not having income from business and profession. For example, in the last year, if someone from you would have selected the new regime, then sorry, you cannot change in the next financial year in the old regime. You will have to continue with the new regime. I guess as we all are, most of our alumni are entrepreneurs, and hardly anyone would be there who is, working as a salaried person. So you need to decide depending upon what choice you made last year and accordingly select this year. Now, I have prepared an example where the old regime would still be beneficial, even though it has higher tax rates. Now, let's assume a person has an income of 10 lakh rupees. Okay. Now, he has purchased a house property on which he is paying interest. So, he has paid interest of, let's say, of 2 lakh rupees because that's the maximum limit that is allowed. So he gets the deduction of 2 lakh for the interest paid, which he will not get under the new regime. Now, after the interest deduction, his income or her income under the old regime comes to 8 lakh rupees, but in the old regime, in the new regime, it is 10 lakh rupees. Similarly, if the other person has taken deduction under section 80C, 80D, 80TTA, to name a few, his net taxable income comes to 6,15,000 rupees in the old regime, where in the new regime, it is same as 10 lakh rupees. Now, if you see, the effective tax rate comes to almost 3.55% in the old regime, even though it has higher tax rates. But in the new regime, the tax rate is, the tax impact is higher of 75,000 rupees, which comes to an effective tax rate of 7.5%. And does any one of you has any query in relation to the first two slides? Okay, I don't think so. Okay, now these were the tax rates which were applicable for individuals. Now going on for the tax rates for companies. Now in the past 4 to 5 years, the income tax department, the finance ministry has introduced various tax rates. They have reduced the tax rates for the companies. Now traditionally the companies were taxed at 30%. Now, a few years ago, the finance minister had promised that gradually the tax rates are going to be reduced for the companies. And in their first 1 or 2 attempts, they have done so. Now, if you go to see for a company, a private limited company or a listed company, if the turnover does not exceed 400 crore rupees, the tax rate is 25% plus applicable surcharge and cess. The surcharge is applicable when the turnover of the company crosses a certain amount of turnover. Now, a company also has an option to go for the lower tax rate at 25%, which is applicable for companies into manufacturing and production. Now, this was introduced maybe 3 or 4 years ago. 2 years ago, they have introduced another section. If it's here, if the fourth one, section 115 BAB, which is applicable for companies carrying manufacturing and production activities. If you see, the tax rate is 15% there. But here the surcharge and the cess is compulsory included, which increases the tax rate to more than 17%. But it is still less than the current rate of 25%. Now, any company which has a turnover of more than 400 crores, the applicable tax rate is going to prevail at 30%. And for foreign companies who are functioning in India, the tax rate is around 40%. Now, if you want to opt for a lower tax regime, which is given here under section 115BA, 115BAA, and 115BAB, I have written the form number below each section that has to be filled before filing the income tax return. Now, once you opt for these lower tax regimes, you cannot opt back, at the old higher rate, because under these new lower tax regimes, there are few deductions which are not applicable to these companies, like higher depreciation rate, and MAT is not applicable when you opt for the lower tax rate. Any previous MAT credit that you have will lapse. So the decision to go for which tax rate under the various sections again have to be taken from case to case, depending upon what is your brought forward losses and how important is depreciation for your company. Now, for partnership firms and LLP, the tax rate has not changed since the past several years. It is flat 30% plus applicable surcharge and cess. Now, just I would want this session to be interactive. I just want to ask one question. Like, for example, the tax rates are usually given like 25%, 30%, 10%. Then why does the government levy surcharge and cess? Does anyone have any idea?
No idea for the surcharge.
And for the cess?
For the cess, I suppose it goes directly to the subsidy schemes.
So that government can do it by increasing the tax rate also and allocate the tax fund for the schemes.
But isn't it specifically designed for that particular subsidy scheme, that this fund that is generated will go definitely for this particular scheme, and no other allocation is done otherwise?
No, I wouldn't say your answer is wrong, but it is not politically correct. Because what happens is that whenever at the end of the year, when the total collection of taxes are made, so a certain portion of the tax income is obviously allocated by the central government to the state governments, depending upon certain criteria. Now, but the surcharge and the cess amount, these both belong to the central government, which they do not want to give it to the state government. So instead of increasing the tax rates, which indirectly will flow from the central government to the state governments. They do not want to do that. So that is why instead of increasing the tax rates, they increase the surcharge and the cess amount to tax higher income people. Okay, now for individuals carrying on business and profession, there's a very beautiful scheme which is prevailing under the Income Tax Act. Now, for people carrying on business, there's a particular section called 44AD, where if their turnover is up to 2 crore rupees, they can offer their income at a designated rate that is mentioned under the Act. For example, on the cash receipts, they need to show 8% profit. And for any other mode like check or NEFT or any other way of income, which is through digital medium, they have to offer the collections at the rate of 6% net profit. Now, for example, if let's say Nimit has a business and he's doing it under a proprietorship or a partnership business. Now, for the year, he has made a total sales of 1 crore rupees. Now, out of that, 90 lakh rupees he has received through digital mode, and 10 lakhs is received in cash. Now, for 10 lakhs portion, 10 lakhs ka 8%, which comes to 80,000, will be his net profit from that 10 lakh worth of sales. And from the remaining 90 lakhs, he will have to calculate it at the rate of 6%, whatever that amount comes. So the totality of 2 will be his net profit from his business profit, business sales. Now, this is these are the bare minimum rates that you can offer and file your return. But if you think that you have earned a higher income, you can voluntarily offer this at a higher rate if you feel so. But in most of the cases, people do not want to pay taxes. They just get rid away from this provision by filing it at the rate of 8 and 6% itself. But it is advisable to show it at a higher rate if you are earning higher profits. This is because I'll give you an example. For example, if you have shown a net profit of around 6% under this regime, but government has all your data in relation to your overseas trip transactions, your credit card details and everything. For example, if you have showed a net profit of around 6%, but you are paying your annual credit card bills amounting to 10 or 12 lakh rupees. So definitely you will get a notice from the income tax department to kindly explain your sources of money from which you are paying your credit card bill. So keep this in mind, because a lot of people are getting such notices nowadays because the reporting has got very strict. Now, the 44AD provision is for businesses. Now, for people carrying on certain type of professions like chartered accountants, doctors, engineers, there are film industry artists. So there are 7 to 8 professions which are listed down under the Income Tax Act. And if you're doing any of such businesses, then and if your turnover is up to 50 lakh rupees, then you need to show 50% of your turnover as your net profit and file your income tax return. Now, 50% is quite high, but then this is it, that you have no other option. Now, once you go for presumptive taxation, you cannot avail any other deduction like depreciation or anything. You do not have to maintain your books of accounts. You do not even have to submit the books of accounts figures in your income tax return. You just need to report your turnover, your net profit, and few other details like cash in hand, bank balance, and debtors, and you are good to file your return of income. Now, in case if you want to show a lesser rate of profit, for example, in a particular year, you have incurred losses, or you have earned lesser margins on your businesses, you need to do tax audit, which I will cover in the later half of my presentation. Any doubts in relation to this slide? And a few other things like the eligible SEC under presumptive taxation is only individuals, HUF and partnership firms, no other entity. Even LLPs are excluded, companies are excluded, and all other types of entities. Now, this limit of 2 crores and 50 lakh has been enhanced to 3 crore and 75 lakhs in this budget. But this would be applicable from the next financial year. This slide has just been put here for your information. Yeah, now coming on to tax audit. Now there's a lot of confusion created because of the amendments done in the Income Tax Act on the applicability of tax audit. When is it applicable or when it is not applicable? So I've tried to create one flow chart explaining when are you required to do a tax audit. Now let's assume you're carrying on a business, not a profession. For a profession, I have a difference, right? This is just for business. And let's assume you have opted for the presumptive taxation scheme, where you need to offer your income at the rate of 6 or 8% of your turnover. Now, till the time your turnover does not crosses 2 crore rupees and you are showing your profit at the rate of 6 or 8%, you do not need to do tax audit. When your turnover is between 2 to 10 crores, again, you do not need to do tax audit if 5% of your total receipts and 5% of your total payments do not exceed in cash. But if at all your either the receipts or the payments exceed 5%, then you will have to do your audit. And anyone having turnover of more than 10 crore rupees has to compulsorily do a tax audit. Now let's assume you have not opted for the presumptive taxation scheme. So this will include LLPs, companies, and even individual and partnership firms who have not ever opted for the presumptive taxation. Now there's no tax audit applicable till 1 crore rupees of turnover, irrespective you have done a loss or you have not done a loss. Till the time your turnover does not exceed 1 crore, you are not liable to do a tax audit. In the second slab, when your turnover is between 1 crore to 10 crore, again the same condition applies. If your cash payments and receipts do not exceed 5% of your total payments and receipts, you are not liable to do a tax audit. And here also, any type of a taxpayer who has earned achieved a turnover of rupees more than 10 crore, you will have to do a tax audit. Is this slide clear? Any clarification required? Now let's come on to individuals or associates who are carrying on profession. And in the first scenario, let's assume that the individual or the partnership firm or the HUF has opted for presumptive taxation. Now up to 50 lakhs of turnover, no tax audit is required if you have declared your net profit at the rate of 50% of your gross turnover. Now, if your turnover exceeds 50 lakh rupees, you will have to do a tax audit compulsorily. Now, let's assume in the case where you have not opted for presumptive taxation ever. In that case, up to 50 lakh rupees, no audit is required, irrespective you have incurred a profit or a loss, anything. As soon as your turnover crosses 50 lakh rupees, you will have to compulsorily do a tax audit. And please keep in mind the penalty for not doing a tax audit is one of the highest amongst the penalty sections. The penalty is 0.5% of your turnover or rupees 1.5 lakh, whichever is lower. So please, if at all in any year you have a doubt, are you are supposed to do a tax audit or not, please seek guidance from a tax consultant or from your chartered accountant. Now, whenever we file our income tax returns, okay, now there are various sources from which we can collect our own income data, which the government uploads on the income tax website. Now, till 2 years back, we only had one source, which was Form 26AS. I hope everyone knows what is Form 26AS. Anyone who has no idea about it? Okay, I'll just repeat. Form 26AS is a form which is available on your income tax website, where all the incomes on which the payer has deducted your TDS all that type of income are reflected in your form 26AS. Now, but from the past 2 years, government has introduced another two forms called annual information statement, which is called AIS, and taxpayer information summary TIS. I don't know how many of you all have seen these forms, but these are quite detailed. Even you will be shocked the amount of data that the government has captured in relation to the income done by you. It has income, it is a detailed form of version of form 26AS. For example, it has all the information in relation to the TDS deducted by the payer on your income, sale and each and individual transaction of sale and purchase of shares and mutual funds. Now, till 2 years ago, a lot of people, used to suppress their share transactions or mutual fund transactions, but going forward, it is not at all possible because the quantum of sale that you show in your income tax return will be directly verified by the quantum of sale shown in form 26A, in AIS. So it's very important to verify your form AIS before filing your income tax return, because we are so busy, we indulge in so many transactions during the year. There might be a situation where we would have forgotten that we have entered into this transaction, and there might be a situation where we might fail to report it in our income tax return. So it's very important to view this statement before filing your income tax return. Now, it has also details of all the dividends that you have earned on your shares and mutual funds. It is quite detailed. They will give you the name of the mutual fund, the date on which you have earned the dividend, and everything. It also includes data in relation to your GST turnover and GST purchases as well. And it will also collate the interest income earned by you through all the bank accounts through FD as well as savings account. And there are specific kind of financial transactions which institutions like insurance companies and banks, they reported against your PAN to the income tax department. For example, if you would have paid to a particular company more than 2 lakh rupees in a year on your credit card bill payment, the same will be reflected again in this AIS statement. Now, mind you that the government is, while processing the income tax return, they verify the data filed by you in the income tax return, and they compare it with this AIS and TIS form along with 26AS. Now, when you go through your form AIS and you see that there are certain transactions which are wrongly reported, or there are transactions which were not entered by you, there is a utility there on the income tax website where you can report it and get your form AIS rectified. So kindly ensure that you get it done this through your chartered accountant, because he might have a knowledge how to do it. But please just don't blindly trust your tax consultant on the income tax return prepared by him. Just once go through this, because as a chartered accountant, we assume that whatever is reported in form AIS is correct, unless and until the client comes to me and tells me, no, this is not correct. So please ensure that from your tax consultant, just tell him that I want AIS and TIS form. Sit one day and verify all the figures which are coming in this. Now, Akshay wanted me to cover the deductions income, investments which will make you eligible for lower income. Now, the most common section is 80C.
Aman bhai,
Yes.
before we move forward, do you have a sample of the AIS form? Which
I can download my AIS and show it to you. Let's do one thing now. When Chesta will start with her session, I'll just download it, and whenever her session gets over, I'll show it on the screen.
Okay.
Okay. Actually, I wanted to put it in the PPT, but then it was increasing the size of the PPT. But I'll show it to you definitely.
Okay.
Okay, now the most common mode of tax saving investments come under Section 80C. Now it has a plethora. The list is quite long. There are around 20 or 21 eligible investments, but the most common ones I have listed down on the right hand side of the screen. Payment of life insurance premium, subscription to public provident fund. I'll talk about PPF when I complete this slide. Invest in ULIP, which is again linked to, it's a mixture of insurance and investment, repayment of housing loan, investment in tax saving mutual funds. The list goes on and on, but these are the most common ones which a lot of people go to. Now, the maximum benefit you can claim under Section 80C is 1,50,000 rupees. And it's just my personal opinion. Now, the government is trying to do away these investments, because under the new tax regime, you don't get 80C deduction. Now, 80C deduction was one of the mode where people used to infuse their savings into the stock market, or they used to build their corpus for their retirement or for their children. But as the deduction is will not be eligible for lower income, I don't know how will this impact the market condition or the savings of the individual. Now, again, the type of investment that you want to do here depends upon how is your liquidity requirement, what are your risk-taking capabilities, and what is the tax benefits that you will earn at the time of redemption of the investment. Now, in the next slide, I've just tried to make a summary of the most common investments under Section 80C, the average returns that you earn, the lock-in period, and the risk factor. Just have a look through it. The least commitment is required under ELSS funds, which are tax-saving mutual funds, where the lock-in period is only 3 years. Sorry, there's a mistake here. In PPF, the lock-in period is 15 years, not 5 years. Now, any one of you has any query in relation to any of these investments, like Akshay, especially you?
Sir, one more thing. It's like NPS scheme, there is like tier 1 and tier 2. I guess tier 1 is not eligible for tax deduction. Something is like that, no? So can you please elaborate that for Akshay only?
नहीं, आप वो नेशनल पेंशन स्कीम की बात कर रहे हो, 80 आगे सीसीडी में कवर्ड है, मैं आगे लूंगा।
अच्छा, ठीक है,
ये 80C में ही हूं मैं अभी, ठीक है। तो अगर आपको सबसे कम कमिटमेंट चाहिए है इन टर्म्स ऑफ लॉकिंग पीरियड, डेफिनेटली गो फॉर ELSS, which are tax saving mutual funds. But apart from that, PPF is one of my favorite, where a lot of people don't invest. I know the commitment is of 15 years, but then the interest you earn is also tax free, and it helps you build a corpus for your future. And also, one of the speciality about PPF is that it cannot be attached even if you go bankrupt. Even the income tax department, if you have committed a tax fraud or you have gone bankrupt, you cannot pay your dues, they cannot attach your PPF. That is the most secured investment that you can have in India. And people investing in PPF, just one tip, that if at all you invest here on a monthly basis, like in SIP, do invest it before the 7th of every month, because if you do it after 7th of every month, you lose the interest for the entire month. So just ensure if you have ongoing, auto debit transactions in your bank account, just modify it if at all it permits you, and change the date to 1st to 6th of every month, so that you don't lose on to the interest. Now again, as the NPS that we were previously discussing about, now 3 sections aggregate the tax deduction that you can take under 80C, 80CCE, 80CCC and 80CCD1 is 1,50,000 rupees. But when we talk about NPS, that is the National Pension Scheme, this gives you an additional deduction of 50,000 rupees. Irrespective of the amount that you invest, you can claim only a maximum deduction of 50,000 rupees. Now, in NPS, all your investments are invested in the stock market, and you cannot withdraw your money apart from certain specific conditions before 60 years of age. So here the commitment is very high, but it depends upon person to person if they want to avail it or not. Now, the other deduction that we are talking about is the deduction of medical premium that we pay. Now, the maximum deduction allowed for a non-senior citizen is 25,000 rupees. But when the payment is, for example, I pay for myself, I'm not a senior citizen, the maximum deduction I get is 25,000 rupees. But if I pay the insurance premium for my father, who is a senior citizen, I can take an additional benefit of up to 50,000 rupees for the payment made on his behalf for his medical policy. So my total deduction would come to 75,000 rupees. Now, it's not just the medical insurance premium that is eligible for deduction. For example, if my father or anyone's parents, they do not have medical insurance policy, but you pay for their treatment in a hospital, then for that also you can claim a deduction up to 50,000 rupees. Provided your parents are senior citizens. If your parents are non-senior citizens, then the maximum benefit you can claim on payment made by you on their behalf is again restricted to 25,000 rupees. So if you and your parents both are non-senior citizens, the total benefit you can claim is of 50,000 rupees. But if you are non-senior and your parents are senior citizens, the maximum you can claim is 75,000 rupees. Now, your 80 EED, which is interest on loan for purchase of electric vehicle. Now, before I talk about this, the sunset clause for availing this benefit is that your loan should be sanctioned before 31st March 2023. So if anyone is intending to buy a car, an electric car on a loan and wants to avail of this tax benefit, kindly request you to hurry up and get your loan sanctioned before 31st March 2023. Now, the benefit that you get here is that the interest that you pay on your car loan, you can take a benefit of rupees 1,50,000 rupees or the amount that you have paid, whichever is lower. Whichever is lower. But this 1,50,000 is not on an annual basis. It is for the complete duration of the loan. So for example, if in the next year you pay 80,000 rupees and in the next to next year you pay 1 lakh rupees as interest, the maximum benefit that you can avail next to next year is only 70,000 rupees. 80,000 here and 70,000 in the next to next year. The complete benefit over your tenure of your loan would be restricted to 1,50,000 rupees. Again, just a reminder once again, anyone planning to take a loan on an electric car, please take it before 31st March. Okay. Now, 80DD, this is deduction in case of maintenance of person with disability. Now, for example, if any individual, he has any dependent who is suffering from the below mentioned disability with us, the severity of the disability is 40% or more, then irrespective of the amount that he has spent on the maintenance or the treatment of that individual, the flat deduction is 75,000 rupees in case the disability is 40% or more, but below 80%. And if the disability is more than 80%, he can claim a flat deduction of rupees 1,25,000. Mind you that the person should be dependent. Now, I'll just rush through these clauses. 80 TTA is in relation to the interest income earned by you on your FDs and your bank, on your bank account, not FDs. Now, in case of individuals, for the interest that you earn on your savings account or your post office savings schemes or whatever, you can claim a deduction of rupees 10,000 rupees or your interest income, whichever is lower. Now, but in the case of senior citizens, this benefit is extended to even fixed deposits that they hold. So if they have earned interest on fixed deposits as well as savings account, the maximum deduction that they can claim is 50,000 rupees or the interest that they have earned, whichever is lower. So a lot of time what happens for tax planning, a lot of individuals who are earning higher income and their parents are retired or not earning more income, they create the FDs in the name of their parents so that they can claim this higher limit of 50,000 rupees. Now let's come to the compliances, a few specific compliances that I've observed in my experience as a practicing chartered accountant. There are a lot of people who are into business, be it an individual, an LLP or a company. They tend to lose a track in relation to these compliances. Now, for example, not everybody knows that your entire year's tax liability has to be paid by you in 4 different installments during the year. It's not that only while filing your return of income, you have to pay the entire amount. People doing that are unknowingly or knowingly incurring an interest liability under various sections of the income tax. Now, for example, if you estimate your tax liability for the next year to be around 2 lakh rupees. So 15% of that 2 lakh rupees you need to pay before 15 June and so on. Now, for example, there is a bit of fluctuation in your tax estimation. If you think that, you have done quite well in your business or profession, so before 15th of March, because by the year end, we almost know that what our net profit is going to be and our net taxes on it. So I have highlighted this because we are just 1 week away from 15th March, and any one of you all who have not deposited their advance tax liability, please do it before 15th March so that you can save some portion of the interest that you will incur if you don't pay it. How many of you all deposit advance tax?
Whenever the CA tells.
Good. So just keep this in mind. Otherwise, if your tax liability is quite huge, then the interest portion is also quite high because it's almost revised at the rate of 1 or 1.5% per month. So unnecessarily, a lakh or 2 lakh rupees just goes in interest liability. And there's no harm in paying extra taxes because whenever you file your return of income, you can always claim that refund and the department gives you along with interest. Okay, now coming to TDS compliances. Now TDS, whenever you incur certain types of expenditure, whenever you're making a payment, TDS has to be deducted if you're crossing a certain threshold. Now, these TDS provisions are applicable for all the partnership firms, irrespective of their turnover, LLPs, companies, trust. For all, the first 4 categories listed here, there's no criteria in terms of turnover or audit applicability. They have to do the TDS compliances whenever they make certain type of payments. Now, but coming to individuals and HUFs, TDS provisions are only applicable to them. Sorry, there's some mistake here. Now, when the business turnover exceeds rupees, here it should have been 1 crore and not 50 lakh. That is my bad. And 50 lakh rupees in case they are into profession. Now this limit has to be seen for the last year. For example, in the current year, your business turnover exceeds 1 crore rupees and you're an individual, or 50 lakh rupees if you are into profession. Then for the year 2023-24 financial year, you will have to do the TDS compliance. So this limit has to be looked for the previous year for looking into the applicability of the current year. Now, there are just 3 basic steps that you need to follow while doing a TDS compliance. It's like make a deduction of TDS whenever it is applicable, deposit it before the due date, and file your TDS returns quarterly, reporting all the transactions on which you have deducted TDS. Now, just for reference, on the right hand side, I have listed down the due dates for various TDS compliances. Now, for the month of April to February, if you deduct any TDS in the first 11 months, the TDS has to be deposited before the 7th of the next month. For example, if I would have deducted a TDS on 20th of February, the due date would be 7th of March. But there's only one exception. For the month of March, they give you extended time to deposit the TDS. It's not 7th April, it's 30th April. And below are the due dates for filing the TDS returns. Now, TDS returns have to be furnished on a quarterly basis. So as there are 4 quarters in a financial year, the 4 deadlines are given here. Now, again, the TDS return deadline is 1 month from the end of the quarter, apart from the last quarter where they give you 1 extra month, that is till 31st May. Now, mind you, because the non-compliance with TDS leads to some harsh consequences, which are listed in the next slide. For example, if you don't furnish your TDS return, there's a penalty of rupees 200 per day for non-filing of TDS return. So if for a particular quarter you have missed to file your income tax return and the delay is, let's assume, 30 days, your late fee comes to around 6,000 rupees and it goes on increasing. Again, if you fail to deduct TDS or after deducting you haven't deposited with the government, again the clock of the interest keeps ticking on and the interest liability keeps increasing.
Aman, I have a question.
Yeah.
Since my clients have already deducted a 10% TDS on my invoices, so when should I ask them for to give? I think so. It's Form 16A.
It's Form 16 for salaried people and 16A for other types of income.
So I'm a freelancer, so I'll have to ask for Form 16A from them, right?
Form 16A they have to give you within 15 days from filing the TDS return.
Okay.
For example, for the last quarter, let's say they file their returns by 31st May. So they have to give you by 15th of June. So even if they do not give you Form 16A, although it's they are a default, but till that time you can see those transactions in your Form 26A, you are safe. So whenever you are in a doubt that your deductor has not deducted your TDS, or has not filed his returns, you can always log into your income tax portal, view Form 26A. If those transactions are not being reflected, then you catch hold of your deductor. Is your doubt solved?
Yes. Now I'll ask my clients about it. And then I had one more question. For example, me and my friend, we went for a project, okay, and the payments will be coming to his account. Of course, the one who is paying, they will deduct around 18% GST. So that will be coming in my friend's account, and while my friend also pays to me, so will he also have to deduct tax again from that? And I'll be liable
now
to
you
double
are
taxation.
involving GST element also. Your question was quite confusing. Just give me a numerical example so that I can explain a bit better.
Okay, so me and my friend, we went for implementing a project, okay, and the payment for whole of the work will be received in his account, okay, in his.
But was there some contract that was entered between y'all two and the company or the entity?
Just like for a certain period of time.
Yeah, for that particular transaction, were there any terms listed down or something?
They just told that they'll pay us per session. That was the thing, and we almost had around 23 or 24 sessions, and now they'll be paying us that amount after deducting GST.
Not deducting GST.
That
registered under GST.
That full payment will be coming into my friend's company account. Okay.
You all
And
have
now,
raised the GST invoice.
yeah. Right.
They will give you the GST. They cannot deduct the GST. They will just deduct the TDS, 10% of your.
Okay.
For example, if you all have raised a bill of 1 lakh rupees plus
Hmm.
GST, 18% as you all have provided services. So the total bill amount would be 1,18,000 rupees. And on
Hmm.
that, they will deduct 10% of 1 lakh, that is 10,000, and they will give you net 1,08,000. Now, the entire TDS credit will be available to your friend because they are deducting the TDS also in this.
And now when he has to transfer my portion to me,
No,
so
he
he
doesn't
can.
have to make any deduction.
Okay. Hmm.
It
And
also
then,
it also depends. Is he liable for doing TDS compliances?
okay, and like when he'll be filing for that, claiming those back, he'll be only getting those
He
back.
get the refund, not you. Because the payer
Okay.
has deducted the entire TDS in his name.
Hmm. Okay. So I can't claim anything right now, even after he receives.
हाँ, उसको या आपके दोस्त को ही टैक्स क्रेडिट मिलेगा.
Okay.
वो आप इंटरनली फिर मैथमेटिकली डिवाइड कर लो कि उसका भी नुकसान ना हो, आपका भी ना हो, और आप उससे उतना अमाउंट.
Okay. Got it. I got it.
कोई भी ट्रांजैक्शन के है ना, देयर आर लॉट ऑफ एलिमेंट्स दैट हैज टू बी सीन. क्या आप भी जीएसटी में रजिस्टर्ड हो? क्या आपका दोस्त भी है? क्या उसको टीडीएस का कंप्लायंस करना पड़ता है? तो कोई भी एक ट्रांजैक्शन का देयर इज नो वन पर्टिकुलर रिप्लाई अनलेस एंड अनटिल all the facts of the case are known to me.
Say, the thing is that TDS deduction will happen only if the amount is above certain limit, right?
हाँ, मैं वही स्लाइड्स पे आ रहा हूँ.
Okay. So Akshay, you check that the amount is above that limit, then only the TDS will be cut. Second
Yeah,
thing,
it has like exceeded beyond 1 lakh. So yes.
and second thing, the thing is that are you going to raise an invoice to your friend with GST?
No, I won't be raising
because
to
if say
things.
for example, your friend is a contractor to a company and you can be a subcontractor. But if you do not have a GST, then you cannot raise a GST invoice, no?
Right.
So that-
Yeah, I won't be in.
That you check with Aman off the record, after the event.
Right.
वही मैं बोल रहा हूँ अक्षय, वो एक ट्रांजैक्शन के बहुत सारे एलिमेंट्स देखने पड़ते हैं. ठीक है.
Okay. Done with.
Okay, now coming to TDS liability. Now there are various sections under which TDS liability, TDS compliances have to be done. But from a business point of view, I have just selected, due to paucity of time, selected 5 or 6 nature of transactions where TDS compliances have to be done. These are just illustrative list, and there are more to it, but I'm not covering them. Now, 194C is payment to contractor. Now, whenever you, the one business entity and another business entity have entered into a contract for providing any services or whatever, so the TDS has to be deducted at the rate of 1% if the person providing the services is an individual, and 2% if the person who is providing the services is not an individual. Now, the exemption limit which Mayur Bhai was talking about, okay, right? When it comes to payment to a contractor, the exemption is rupees 30,000 in a single payment to a single person, or rupees 1 lakh in aggregate during the year to a single person. Now, mind you, these limits mentioned here have to be seen per individual and not in totality of your nature of expenses in terms of contract. Now, let's take an example. Now, Akshay and Chesta Didi have entered into a contract for providing XYZ nature of services or whatever. Or Chesta Didi is into a business of providing catering business, catering services, and Akshay is doing an event and he has hired Chesta Didi as a supplier. Now, when Akshay is initially Chesta Didi raised an invoice of 20,000 rupees on Akshay, and Akshay wants to make a payment. So Akshay, tell me, will you deduct TDS on that 20,000 rupees?
So we both are under the same, no? like you told, we both are partners.
No. See, you are payer. She is the receiver of the money. I have written here the limits.
And then I'll have to
1,000 in
deduct.
a
Yes,
single
I'll have
payment.
to deduct.
No, you will not have to deduct because
What
it
was
is
the amount? What was the amount? What was the amount?
20,000 rupees.
No. 30, it's less than 30,000. So yes.
Let's
I cannot.
assume the entire contract amount is of 80,000 rupees and initially she
Then,
raised an invoice of 20,000 rupees. So will you deduct TDS? No, because in a single payment you are not exceeding 30,000 rupees.
but in the second time, I'll have
Second
to
time also
do
you'll have to
that.
look at the invoice amount.
Okay.
Okay. But if the contract would have been of 1,20,000 rupees, any payment that you make her, you will have to deduct TDS because eventually at the end of the year, your entire limit is going to cross 1 lakh. Okay. So again, I'm repeating, this has to be seen per individual, per contractor, and not for all the contractors combined. Now let's talk about payment of commission or brokerage. Now the rate of deduction is 5% for anyone, for the receiver, and the exemption limit is rupees 15,000 per person for a single financial year. Now, for example, if the bill is of 10,000 rupees and there is no other invoice raised during the year, there is no requirement of deducting TDS. But if there are two invoices of 7,000 and 8,000 rupees, then of 7,000 and 9,000 rupees, then the entire amount crosses 15,000 rupees, you will have to deduct TDS while making payment to that person. Now, one of the most common payments done by businesses is payment of professional fees. Maybe, to engineers, to CAs or to CS or whatever. Now, the exemption limit is rupees 30,000 per person for the single year. As soon as you cross that 30,000 rupees, you will have to deduct TDS. Now, sometimes what happens at the starting of the year or during the mid of the year, you're unable to determine whether at the end of the year, the limit of 30,000 is going to cross or not. So when initially you are making a payment, you can make a payment without deducting TDS. For example, you made a payment of 29,000 rupees for the period April to Feb. But during the March, there comes another invoice of 10,000 rupees. Now the entire TDS has for the entire year, you need to deduct while making the last installment of the 10,000 rupees and then make the net payment. Okay. Now this example that I gave, where you cannot determine the limit, whether you are going to cross the threshold or not. No need to worry. Whenever you are making the payment where the limit is being crossed, you can deduct the TDS for the entire year in that particular transaction. Okay. Now again, payment of rent. Now there are two different categories. One is when you make a payment when you have taken on hire plant and machinery, the rate is 2%. And whenever you have taken some immovable property and furniture on rent, the rate is 10%. Now the exemption limit is of rupees 2,40,000 per person in a particular financial year. Again, I'm not giving an example here because the other examples that I've given before would equally apply here. It's just that the limit is enhanced to 2,40,000. Okay, now this 2 years ago or last year, maybe they had introduced this 194Q for payment of purchase of goods. Even on this, they had introduced TDS. Now here, there are various factors that you need to take into consideration whether the TDS liability has to be discharged by you or not. One of the basic criteria is that the person who has made the purchase, the buyer, his turnover for the previous financial year should exceed 10 crore rupees. If his turnover is not in more than 10 crore rupees, then these provisions are not applicable. But if his turnover increases, crosses 10 crore rupees, let's take an example. During financial year 21-22, Akshay had a company whose turnover crossed 10 crore rupees. Then for the financial year 22-23, these provisions would become applicable. And during the year, for example, Akshay sells to me, Akshay purchases from Aman goods worth rupees 60 lakh rupees. then he will have to deduct TDS while making me the payment. Because it has to be per buyer, per seller 50 lakh rupees, you will have to look at the limit. I am the seller 1 year and Chesta ji is seller 2 years. If Akshay purchases from me 60 lakh worth of goods, he will have to deduct TDS at the rate of 0.1%. But if he purchases goods from Chesta ji of worth 30 lakh rupees, then you will not have to deduct TDS because the amount of purchase during the year has not crossed 50 lakh rupees from Chesta. Okay, now again a common area where a lot of business entities, they come under this disallowance provision. Now, whenever you are making a payment to a particular person for a particular bill, and if that bill is of more than 10,000 rupees, you cannot pay him in cash. You will have to pay him through a banking channel. If at all you pay him through cash, the entire expense would be disallowed while filing your income tax return. Now, this 10,000 limit has to be looked at per invoice. For example, now Akshay has raised 2 invoices on me of 99,000 rupees and I'm making him a payment of 18,000 rupees in cash. I will not incur any disallowance because the entire payment that I'm making to Akshay is less than 10,000 rupees per invoice. Again, a lot of times, there are a lot of certain category of employees that we hire, like maid or peon. A lot of times we tend to pay them in cash, 15,000 rupees, because a lot of times they don't have bank accounts. But then especially if you are a business entity who is liable for tax audit, I would say that please open their bank account and please pay them in through banking channel. Otherwise, if it comes, under the eyes of the auditor, he is going to disallow these kind of payments, which will eventually lead to a higher net profit for taxation basis, leading to a high tax payment. Now section 43. Now, okay, there is one section where I failed to put it in the slide, which has been a famous topic in the income tax from the past 2 years. Now, a lot of times, business entities who are liable to collect or deposit provident fund on behalf of the employees. Now, usually a certain portion of that provident fund is deducted from the employee's salary. The employer collects it and deposits it into the PF account. And similarly, even the employer makes an equal contribution on behalf of the employer, and he also deducts that amount in the PF account of the employee. Now, but income tax department has become quite strict when it comes to the contribution of the employees. Now, under the PF Act, there is, every month there is a particular date, 15th of every month, where you need to 15th of the next month, where you need to deposit the contribution collected of the previous month by the employee. Now, if you miss that due date under the PF Act, that portion of the salary expense will be disallowed permanently. You will not be able to claim that salary expense for your income tax return. Now, for example, I have collected 10,000 rupees from Akshay from his salary as his PF contribution in the month of Feb for his Feb salary. Now, I need to deposit that into the PF account before 15th of March, his contribution of 10,000 rupees. If I fail to deposit that before 15th of March or on 15th of March, that 10,000 rupees as a salary expenditure will not be allowed to be under the Income Tax Act. Now,
I have a question, like how will the employee know that that has been filed or not?
वो उसके अभी आजकल पीएफ अकाउंट सब इलेक्ट्रॉनिक हो गया है ना, he can always check his balance online.
Okay.
Okay, now there are certain types of payments which are allowed only on payment basis. Due basis पे आप उसको claim नहीं कर पाओगे income tax return. यहाँ पे I have listed on a few things. For example, any tax, GST, employees, the employer contribution on employees PF, interest on loans taken from banks, and leave encashment. Now, all these things will not be allowed till the time I've made these payments. Actually, it has to go out from my bank account before filing income tax return. Now, let's take an example for the month of March. I have a GST liability of around 2 lakh rupees, but I haven't paid it till the time I have filed my return of income, let's say in the month of August. So while I'm filing my GST return, my income tax return, these 2 lakh rupees of my GST liability will not be allowed to me in my income tax return. Another example, I've taken a loan from a bank. For the year ending March 23, I have an outstanding interest liability for the year of around 5 lakh rupees. Now I need to pay that 5 lakh rupees of interest to the bank before I file my income tax return. If I don't pay, that 5 lakh rupees of interest expense will not be allowed to me while filing my income tax return. So everything which is listed under the section 43B, the time limit to make the payment for these type of expenses or taxes is before the due date of filing your income tax return. What's the time? Oh, I've exceeded.
No issues. It's very interesting. Please carry on.
अच्छा, ये स्टार्टअप टैक्सेशन के बारे में आता हूँ. एक ये जो नया प्रोविजन है, लेट मी कवर दैट. Now last year or last year, sorry, I don't recollect. In the Finance Act, Income Tax Department had introduced this provision of filing your updated return. Now, previously there was a normal return, a revised return, or a belated return. Now, this is in totality a different type of return. This is known as updated return. Now, for filing your belated return also, there's a particular deadline. Even if you miss your belated return wala deadline, then you can opt for this filing your updated return. Now, for example, let's assume you had filed your return of income showing an income of 6 lakh rupees. But later on, you realized, oh, I have missed to report a few dividend income, which is, high in quantum or anything. You can opt for filing this updated return ITRU, even if you have missed your deadline of filing revised return. But then there's a catch. Even though they are allowing you to file the updated return, they are taking additional tax as a percentage of your tax. Now, if you file your updated return within 12 months from the end of the financial year from the end of the assessment year in which, belonging to the assessment year, then 25% of the tax you have to pay as a fine. Now, for example, I'll give you a date-wise example to make it more clear. And if you file your ITR updated return within 24 months from the end of relevant assessment year, then you have to pay an additional fee of 50% of your tax plus interest. But this is a very good provision so that at a future date, you are saved from penalty, because if the income tax department catches you before you file your updated return, then they are going to levy a huge penalty on you by saying that you have suppressed your income. But here they have given you an opportunity to voluntarily disclose a higher income which you have missed previously. So this is a very good provision if you want to protect yourself from future income tax department penalties. Now let's come to the startup taxation. Okay, now there's a startups are defined under the Income Tax Act. Just you cannot open your company and call yourself as a startup under Income Tax Act. There are various criteria, various registrations that you need to take before calling yourself as a startup under Income Tax Act. Now, few of the conditions I have mentioned here. The eligibility criteria is that it should be incorporated or registered in India for less than 10 years from the date of incorporation. Annual turnover should not exceed 10 crores in any of these 10 years. And it aims to work towards innovation, development, deployment, and commercialization of product, processes, or services driven by technology or IP. And it should be a completely new entity. It should not be formed, through a merger or anything else. And it must obtain a certification from DPIIT and also from the IMB board. And it should be in the form of a private limited company, a registered partnership firm, or an LLP. If you fulfill all these criteria under the Income Tax Act, then only the deduction under the tax benefit under Section 80 IAC is available to you. Now here actually I had mentioned the process of registering your startup, but due to paucity of time, I will be skipping these slides. I'll share the presentation so you can circulate it. Okay, now if you fulfill all your criteria of being a startup, then 100% of your profits and gains derived from such business shall be exempt from tax for any 3 of the consecutive financial years as selected by you. It's not that only during the first 3 years of startup that you'll be eligible for a deduction, because during the initial stage usually the startups are at a losses. So maybe you can opt for this option when you're turning profitable in the 7th or the 8th year. So the 8th, 9th, and the 10th year for 3 consecutive years, you can claim this tax deduction of 100% profits. So this is it from my end. If there are any queries, please write them to Akshay. He will circulate it to me, and whenever I get time in the next 10 days, I will definitely respond to all of it and I will give it back to Akshay. Chesta Didi.
थैंक यू सो मच अमन. वैसे आप कंटिन्यू कर सकते थे, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं था. इट्स लाइक कुछ पॉइंट्स थे ऐसे जो मुझे भी नहीं पता थे. थैंक यू उसके लिए भी. बिफोर कंटिन्यूइंग आई वुड लाइक एवरीवन की प्लीज एक बार अटेंडेंस दे दो कि जो लोग हैं वो लोग एक्चुअली में हैं या नहीं.
Like, do you want them to put their videos on?
Yes, exactly. I want to see the face of everyone.
Correct. Videos.
I request everyone to please put your videos on.
And one more thing, please tell कि कौन लोग यहाँ पर PVT, LTD या LTD वाले हैं. You can call your names as well.
Start, please.
मेरा प्राइवेट लिमिटेड है, पार्टनरशिप है, LLP भी है.
बद्दू सर अच्छा है.
पलाश भाई. बिदुल सर आप बताइए.
Yes, Akshay.
हाँ जी.
So
Supac Industries I can see.
Supac Industries, yeah. Bitul Shah.
private limited, right?
Bakkar
Yeah,
is
private limited.
PVT, LTD.
We have a partnership, private limited, and LLP. All the 3 companies.
Okay, great, sir. So my session is basically for private limited companies.
Yes.
इसलिए मैं पूछ रही हूँ कि who
Private
are
limited ही है.
with private limited. Okay, I'm just sharing my screen. Please बता दीजिएगा कि okay है कि नहीं. Just a second. Is it visible?
Yes.
Great. So we are at the year end. First, we'll go through some of the compliances which every private company needs to follow. Like जो भी PVT LTD वाले हैं, I just wanted them to write in the chat box, or else they can just raise their hands. Do they know what is MBP1 or DIR8?
No, no.
LTD वाले भी नहीं, मतलब nobody is having any idea about what is MBP1 or DIR8.
नहीं.
I suppose you are all you all are the directors of your respective companies, right?
Yes.
Yes. So it's a necessary compliance. MBP1 and DIR8 is basically, MBP1 आपका declaration होता है, which every director needs to give at the time of the appointment of the director itself, and later on at the first board meeting of the every financial year. Plus, whenever there's any changes arises, then also MBP1 is to be, MBP1 has to be given to the company. So what MBP1 says कि आपकी holdings कहाँ पर है, in which companies you are the director. Like if for example sir is a director in Supac Industries, so he might be having a directorship in other companies too. तो वो ये बताता है कि आप किस किस कंपनीज में डायरेक्टर हैं ऑलरेडी, और आपका अगर शेयर होल्डिंग 2% से ज्यादा है तो यू नीड टू स्टेट दैट टू, कि यहाँ पे इस कंपनी में या किसी फर्म में या किसी LLP में आप पार्टनर हैं या आप किसी कंपनी में डायरेक्टर हैं और आपका स्टेक वहां पर 2% से ज्यादा का है. ठीक है, इसकी जरूरत हमें क्यों है?
रिलेटिव्स का भी डिटेल्स डालना पड़ता है ना?
यस एग्जैक्टली, रिलेटिव्स का भी डिटेल्स डालना पड़ता है. दैट मीन्स यू हैव साइन, बट आपको ये नहीं पता है कि आप क्या साइन कर रहे हो.
नहीं मतलब ये शायद रिपोर्ट का नाम नहीं पता होगा, बट यस
बराबर. यस, वो इसलिए जाता है सो दैट कि आपका रिलेटेड पार्टी ट्रांजैक्शंस जो है सेक्शन 188 के अंदर जो आता है वो आप मैच कर सके, क्योंकि रिलेटेड पार्टी ट्रांजैक्शन के लिए आपको हर बार डिस्क्लोजर देना पड़ता है. अनदर वन इज DIR8. वो एक डिक्लेरेशन होती है कि कोई भी जो डायरेक्टर है वो डिस्क्वालिफाइड नहीं है, तो वो डिक्लेरेशन देना भी जरूरी है, और इट इज मैंडेटरी फॉर एवरी कंपनी कि वो इसका रिकॉर्ड अपने पास रखें. अगर नहीं रखते हैं देन इट इज ऑल्सो एन ऑफेंस अंडर द एक्ट. अनदर वन इज DPT3. आप सबकी कंपनीज में डिपॉजिट का रिटर्न तो जाता ही है, आई होप जाता है. एनीवन हैविंग एनी आइडिया अबाउट DPT3?
वापस एक बार बोलिए.
DPT3, return of deposits.
Intercompany deposits and deposits from the directors, right?
No, it's not the
No.
deposits of the director. The return is DPT3 only. It's the deposits only. आप जो डायरेक्टर से लेते हो in the form of the loan, it is not actually deposit, but it is a transaction which is considered as deposits. See, for private companies आप public से deposit नहीं ले सकते हो. कुछ
Yes.
certain class of companies है, like listed companies है, एक turnover के exceed जो companies जाती हैं सिर्फ वही public से ले सकती हैं, तो private companies वहां नहीं ले सकती. सेकेंड इज कुछ ट्रांजैक्शंस होती हैं, जैसे आपने किसी डायरेक्टर से लोन लिया, तो वो लोन तो आपने लिया या किसी फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशन से लोन लिया, तो मिनिस्ट्री को ये देखना है कि कौन कंपनी कितना आउटस्टैंडिंग डेट उसके पास कितना है, इसके लिए रिटर्न जाती है, और इसका जो आपका डेडलाइन है दैट इज ऑफ 30th जून ऑफ एवरी फाइनेंशियल ईयर. नेक्स्ट हमारा MSME का रिटर्न जाता है. आपकी बहुत सारी कंपनीज ऐसी होंगी जो MSME के अंडर रजिस्टर्ड होंगी, है किसी की कंपनीज या पार्टनरशिप फर्म्स या LLPs?
यस MSME है मेरा.
हाँ, तो वहां पर ऐसा होता होगा कि आपका पेमेंट्स बहुत डिले हो रहा है, मतलब पेमेंट्स आ रही है तो पर डिले हो के आ रही है, उसको कर्ब करने के लिए. पार्डन?
टेक्सटाइल में हमारा ऐसा ही होता है. कोई दावा ही नहीं.
वो 120 डेज का आपका नॉर्मली चलता है, बट अगर आप किसी कंपनी को सप्लाई कर रहे हो तो वो कंपनी का ऑब्लिगेशन बनाया गया है कि वो कंपनी एक रिटर्न फाइल करती है अगर उसने पेमेंट नहीं करा है विद इन 45 डेज, और उसका पेमेंट जो है वो अभी भी आउटस्टैंडिंग है, तो 6 मंथ्स के बाद वो कंपनी एक रिटर्न फाइल करती है, और उसके बाद वो MSME को उसको पेमेंट करना मैंडेटरी है अलॉन्ग विद द इंटरेस्ट.
तो पेमेंट नहीं आया तो MSME पे करती है?
नहीं, देखो पेमेंट नहीं, MSME का पेमेंट नहीं आया तो वो कंपनी रिटर्न फाइल करती है कि उसने वो MSME को पेमेंट नहीं किया है
हाँ.
विद इन 45 डेज.
बट इसके
हाँ।
अंदर एक कैप है कि इफ यू अग्री द टर्म्स फॉर हायर देन 45 days in the PO, then you cannot do anything.
ट्रू, बट वो रिटर्न में होना चाहिए. That should be in return. So next is DIR 3 KYC. अगर लाइक आप लोगों का सबका वेब बेस्ड KYC तो होता ही है, आई गेस, एवरी ईयर.
Yes, every year.
यस. तो अगर आपका एड्रेस चेंज होता है, इवन फोन नंबर, मोबाइल नंबर, या आपका कोई भी पर्सनल पर्टिकुलर अगर चेंज होता है, तो यू नीड टू फाइल DIR 3 KYC. प्लस पहले तो आपको कंपनी को ही इन्फॉर्म करना पड़ेगा कि आपका ये पर्टिकुलर चेंज हुआ है. दैट इज योर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. उसके बाद यू नीड टू फाइल DIR 3 KYC, नॉट द वेब वंस. वेब वंस इज फॉर योर deactivation, like your particulars are true. If your particulars has been changed, then you need to file the DIR 3 KYC form. I'm not sure who all are aware about this MCA V3 changes. Your business users have been registered or not? Anyone? Palash sir, Nimit sir.
कोई आइडिया नहीं है.
आइडिया नहीं है
आपका
इसका.
मैं क्यों सेशन ही अटेंड कर रहा हूँ.
क्या बोल रहा है भक्कड़?
अच्छा.
It's like if you are a director in a company, then you need to create a different user as a business user. अभी V2 पे it was like कि प्रोफेशनल का यूजर भी रजिस्टर्ड है, तो we can work along. बट अभी इट्स मैंडेटरी कि डायरेक्टर का भी यूजर क्रिएट हो V3 पर. इफ देयर इज अ CS इन योर कंपनी, तो उन्होंने क्रिएट कर ही दिया होगा. अदरवाइज वो V3 पर यूजर क्रिएट करना इज मैंडेटरी. तो वहां पर आपका DSC एसोसिएट होगा, देन ओनली यू विल बी एबल टू फाइल योर DIR 3 KYC इन केस ऑफ चेंजेस ऑफ एनी पर्टिकुलर्स. एनी क्वेश्चन? सबके ऊपर से जा रहा है क्या?
नहीं, परफेक्ट जा रहा है.
चलिए ये बात करते हैं. आप लोगों के रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस तो सभी के हैं.
Yes.
कोई मुझे बता सकता है कि ये रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस के बाहर का नेम प्लेट ये ओके है? इज इट ओके?
नहीं है, इसमें GST नहीं है ना.
सिन नंबर नहीं डाला है.
सिन नंबर नहीं डाला है. GST भी नहीं डाला है.
और
प्राइवेट लिमिटेड नहीं लिखा है ना, लिमिटेड लिखा है, सिर्फ लिमिटेड लिखा है.
लिमिटेड लिखा है, वो पब्लिक कंपनी है. दैट
ओके.
और बस. और ये दिस वन
ये बराबर लग रहा है.
ये प्रॉपर एकदम.
अच्छा. अभी किसी ने मुझे बोला था GST नहीं है लास्ट वाले में.
सीन कुछ नहीं है.
इसमें GST नहीं है, इसमें भी सिन नहीं है.
ये भी बराबर नहीं है.
इसलिए ये भी बराबर नहीं है.
ये कंपनी
that
हमारा
means-
छतराल की है ना, इसीलिए बराबर बोल रहा हूँ. ये छतराल की कंपनी हमारे.
ठीक है. तो ये भी मैंडेटरी है कि आपका जो रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस के बाहर जो बोर्ड लगा हुआ है वो भी प्रॉपर बना हुआ होना चाहिए. बिकॉज देयर इज अ फॉर्म कॉल्ड एज INC 22A जो अभी रिसेंटली 2018 में फाइल हुआ था. मतलब लास्ट फाइल उसका 2018 है, और अभी ROCs जो है वो इंस्पेक्शन कर रहे हैं इन ऑर्डर टू कब द शेल कंपनीज, कि शेल कंपनी एग्जिस्ट करती है या नहीं. तो दे आर ऑन फिजिकल इंस्पेक्शन. सो आपके बोर्ड्स भी मैटर करते हैं, और सेक्शन 12 ऑफ कंपनीज एक्ट बोलता है कि प्रॉपर बोर्ड का फॉर्म क्या होना चाहिए. प्लस ये सब आपके लेटर हेड पे भी होना चाहिए. सी, ये एक मैं आपको लाइव एग्जांपल दे रही हूँ. प्लीज जो साइन करते हैं एज अ डायरेक्टर, प्लीज एक बार देख लीजिए.
चेस्टा दी, सॉरी टू इंटरप्ट, आप प्लीज उसको स्लाइड शो पे कर दीजिए, मैक्सिमाइज करके.
श्योर. इज इट विजिबल ना? ठीक है.
परफेक्ट.
ठीक है. अभी हम लोग क्या करते हैं अपने फॉर्म्स के लिए, जनरली CA और CS को ही ऑब्वियसली हम लोग अपना काम डेलीगेट करते हैं, जिनके पास इन हाउस CS नहीं है. तो वंस वी डेलीगेट आवर वर्क्स, उनके पास भी टाइम नहीं होता और हमारे पास भी टाइम नहीं होता कि हम उनको अपना ये लेटर हेड प्रोवाइड करा पाए. तो व्हाट दे डज इज कि अपना वो लेटर हेड बनाते हैं और उसके बाद उसमें आपका ईमेल या कॉन्टैक्ट नहीं लिखा होता, विच इज एन ऑफेंस अंडर द कंपनीज एक्ट ऑल्सो. लेटर हेड पे आपका प्रॉपरली मेंशन होना चाहिए कंपनी का नाम, कंपनी का एड्रेस, उसका रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस, ईमेल आईडी, सिन नंबर, वेबसाइट अगर है तो, अदरवाइज, और कॉन्टैक्ट नंबर. So these things mandatorily should be mentioned on the letterhead of the company.
I have a question here.
Yes.
लेटरहेड पे तो करते हैं, अभी आजकल कम्युनिकेशन ईमेल के थ्रू जाता है, तो अपने ईमेल में जो सिग्नेचर होता है डायरेक्टर्स का और एनीबॉडी फ्रॉम अ मार्केटिंग और परचेज डिपार्टमेंट सेंडिंग, उसमें भी सिन नंबर लिखना जरूरी बनता है फॉर ईमेल और इज नॉट रिक्वायर्ड?
नहीं सर, दिस इज लाइक communication to the MCA only. These particulars are for the communication to MCA only.
Okay.
जब भी हम मिनिस्ट्री को कुछ फाइल करते हैं, उनका कुछ गाइडलाइंस है कि वो लेटर हेड पे ये सब चीजें होनी चाहिए. Secondly,
not for our routine communication.
Not for your routine communication, no. But लेटर हेड पे होना चाहिए. लाइक लेटर हेड आप जहां पर भी, हाँ, रूटीन कम्युनिकेशन के लिए अगर आप मेल कर रहे हैं तो कोई इशू नहीं है, बट आप एमसीए के साथ जो भी आप कम्युनिकेशन कर रहे हैं वहां पर ये प्रॉपर गाइडलाइंस फॉलो होनी चाहिए. अदरवाइज रिसेंटली आरओसी ने पेनल्टी लगाई है ऑन द डायरेक्टर्स एंड द मतलब ऑफिसर्स इन डिफॉल्ट. एंड अकॉर्डिंग टू कंपनीज एक्ट, ऑफिसर्स इन डिफॉल्ट आर योर डायरेक्टर्स, कंपनी सेक्रेटरी, सीईओ, CFO. These all are officers in default. Along with the company, इन सारे ऑफिसर्स इन डिफॉल्ट के ऊपर भी रिसेंटली पेनल्टी लगी है फॉर नॉन मेंशनिंग ऑफ सिन ऑन द लेटर हेड ऑफ द कंपनी. तो जो भी डॉक्यूमेंट्स एमसीए के पास फाइल होते हैं तो ऑब्वियसली आप लोगों के पास साइन होने के लिए तो आते ही है ना, तो इट्स योर मॉरल ड्यूटी कि आप एक बार चेक कर लीजिए इट्स प्रॉपर है कि नहीं है. सेकेंडली, दीज डिजिटल सिग्नेचर्स आर नॉट अलाउड एट द एमसीए. अभी तक प्रॉपर कोई नोटिफिकेशन या सर्कुलर नहीं आया दैट you could put on these digital signatures or on the documents which you are submitting to the MCA. लिस्टेड कंपनीज के केस में इट्स ऑपोजिट. लिस्टेड कंपनीज के केस में सेबी, बीएसई एंड एनएससी दे आर प्रेफरिंग कि जो भी डॉक्यूमेंट्स अपलोड हो दे शुड बी डिजिटली साइंड. सेकेंड, जब भी आप कोई डॉक्यूमेंट साइन करते हैं प्लीज चेक कि वहां पर आपका नाम, डेजिग्नेशन एज अ डायरेक्टर, योर डिन नंबर एंड योर एड्रेस शुड बी मेंशन्ड. Like you can see in this case, it's mentioned like certified true copy only. यहाँ पर ना नाम लिखा है, ना DIN, and not the address of the individual who is signing. So which director is signing? कुछ नहीं, मतलब nothing is mentioned. So it is also an offense under the Companies Act, and also the ROC is imposing penalty for the same. So I request everyone, जब भी आप sign करें, please check these documents before signing. Any questions anyone wants to ask?
We are all clear.
कौन सा वाला all clear?
मतलब समझ आ गया ऐसा.
ऐसा बराबर. Thank you. There are certain list of registers which are required to be maintained and kept by the company at the registered office of the company. Like it's the register of members. Since incorporation, आपका register of members has to be maintained properly. See, मैं ये सारी चीजें इसलिए बता रही हूँ क्योंकि रिसेंटली एमसीए का सर्कुलर, लाइक मैंने बोला, आया है जिससे फिजिकल इंस्पेक्शन अभी स्टार्ट हो गई है इन ऑर्डर टू कर्ब द शेल कंपनीज. हम भी जिन कंपनीज में हम लोग भी काम करते हैं, इट्स लाइक एक लिस्टेड कंपनी है, उसकी बहुत सारी प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनीज बना दी है साथ में, ग्रुप कंपनीज 8-9 पैसे रोटेट करने के लिए, विच वी जनरली डज कि यहाँ से वहां से यहाँ के लिए. तो आपका एक प्रॉफिट कम करने के लिए भी और पैसा रोटेट करने के लिए भी. बट हम लोग कहाँ भूल जाते हैं कि हम लोग सिर्फ एनुअल रिटर्न्स फाइल करते हैं, लाइक AOC4, MGT7, सिर्फ ये दो ही चीजें हैं जो हमें फाइल करनी है. ये डॉक्यूमेंट्स कोई नहीं देखता है, कोई एम्फेसाइज भी नहीं करता है, बट जब इंस्पेक्शन आता है तब पता चलता है कि ये डॉक्यूमेंट्स भी हैं, इनका भी वर्थ है. अदरवाइज जब मर्जर के लिए जाते हैं तब दीज डॉक्यूमेंट्स आर टू बी कॉल्ड ऑफ बाय द ROC और द RDs इन ऑर्डर टू गिव द NOC. तो तब ये डॉक्यूमेंट्स का वैल्यू या वर्थ हमें पता चलता है, एल्स जब हमको अंडर टेबल देना पड़ता है तब. तो दिस इज अ रजिस्टर ऑफ मेंबर्स जिसमें आपका इक्विटी का भी रहता है और आपके प्रेफरेंशियल शेयर होल्डर्स है उनका रजिस्टर्स भी होता है. सिंस इनकॉर्पोरेशन यू नीड टू कीप दिस रजिस्टर्स विद यू. अगर कोई डुप्लीकेट शेयर्स इशू होते हैं तो उनके सर्टिफिकेट्स भी यू आर रिक्वायर्ड टू कीप एट योर रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस. ठीक है. एक चीज और, आप लोग बोर्ड मीटिंग अटेंड करते हैं, मतलब होती है जेन्युइन?
बिल्कुल होती है.
किस किस की कंपनीज में जेन्युइन बोर्ड मीटिंग होती है प्लीज? निमित सर, आपकी कंपनी में जेन्युइन बोर्ड मीटिंग होती है? यू आर द लिस्टेड कंपनी, तो उसमें तो होती ही होगी, राइट?
नहीं, मेरा तो प्राइवेट लिमिटेड है, तो उसमें तो करते हैं हम लोग उससे, क्योंकि मेरा डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ टेलीकम्युनिकेशन के साथ काम करना रहता है, तो करना पड़ता है कंपलसरी।
ठीक है, तो आप ये प्रैक्टिस फॉलो करते हैं नोटिस देने का 7 डेज पहले?
नोटिस नहीं, वो उतना प्रैक्टिस फॉलो नहीं करते यूजुअली। 2 या 3 ही डायरेक्टर्स है, तो फिर फोन पे में बोल के मिल लेते हैं और मीटिंग हो जाती है पूरी।
यही तो हमारा सेक्रेटेरियल स्टैंडर्ड कुछ और ही बोलता है कि आपको 7 डेज पहले बोर्ड मीटिंग का नोटिस मिल जाना चाहिए। वो नोटिस जो मिल गया है उसकी एक्नॉलेजमेंट भी कंपनी के पास पहुंच जानी चाहिए। तो ये दोनों आपका रिकॉर्ड है जो कि एटलीस्ट 3 साल के लिए प्रिजर्व होना चाहिए। तो एट एनी टाइम आपके पास पिछला लास्ट 3 इयर्स का ये वाला सेक्रेटेरियल रिकॉर्ड होना ही चाहिए। ठीक है, बोर्ड मीटिंग के टाइम पे मिनट्स बनती हैं, बोर्ड मीटिंग के बाद वो किसी कंपनी में प्रेजर्व होती हैं। नहीं, किसी की भी कंपनी में मिनट्स नहीं बनती बोर्ड मीटिंग की।
मिनट्स तो नहीं बनती है, और ना ही 7 डेज पहले हम प्रायर में बताते हैं कि ऐसा है। निमित ने जैसे बताया वैसे ही हमारा भी होता है।
तो आप लोगों के यहाँ अभी अटेंडेंस रजिस्टर नहीं है किसी भी मीटिंग का?
नहीं,
नहीं, ऐसा कुछ करते नहीं, वो रजिस्टर मेंटेन नहीं करते हैं।
आप लोग
सिर्फ
कोई भी
रिकॉर्ड रखते हैं।
सेक्रेटेरियल स्टैंडर्ड नहीं फॉलो करते हैं
बिल्कुल।
विच आर रिक्वायर्ड टू बी फॉलोड।
हम्म।
और ये सब कंपनीज एक्ट के अंदर ऑफेंस है, और एट द एंड ये सब आता है डायरेक्टर्स के ऊपर। जस्ट मेक श्योर कि अगर आपकी कंपनी में सीएसबी है और तब भी ये काम नहीं हो रहा है, तो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी उसकी होती है, बट समहाउ आपके ऊपर भी आती है। बट अगर सीएस नहीं ही है और आप ये काम आउटसोर्स कराते हैं, तो प्लीज इंश्योर कि जहां से आप आउटसोर्स करा रहे हैं वो आपको ये सारे डॉक्यूमेंट्स भी प्रोवाइड करे। ठीक है, सो एनी क्वेश्चन फ्रॉम एनीवन? Like my point is to make you aware about the secretarial compliances, कि these are also the compliances, but जब like I said कि inspection होता है तभी we'll get to know कि हाँ ये भी compliances हैं। Before signing every document, please check these minor things कि आपका दिन ठीक लिखा हो, वह नाम ठीक लिखा हो, ये कुछ भी गलत ना जाए, बिकॉज उसका पेनल्टी एट द एंड आपके ऊपर ही आएगा बीइंग अ डायरेक्टर।
तो मैम ये
एक,
पूछना था
हाँ जी,
कि जो एक बोर्ड मीटिंग के लिए जब इंफॉर्मेशन देने होते हैं, तो कौन से सोर्सेज है कि 7 दिन पहले हम लोग इन्फॉर्म कर दें?
सर आप बाय हैंड भी दे सकते हो, बाय मेल भी दे सकते हो, बट कोरियर से नहीं दे सकते, आप बाय पोस्ट भी दे सकते हो, बट यू हैव टू रिसीव द एक्नॉलेजमेंट। बाकी सबका, या आपने जैसे पोस्ट किया है तो पोस्ट का आपके पास रिसीट होता है कि
ओके।
आपने सेंड कर दिया है, वो आपके पास होना चाहिए।
तो बाय मेल भी इन्फॉर्म कर दे तो चलेगा?
यस, बाय मेल भी आप इन्फॉर्म कर देंगे तो चले, बट यू हैव टू 7 डेज इन एडवांस। अगर ऐसा नहीं है कि आप शॉर्टर नोटिस नहीं दे सकते, इफ यू आर गोइंग फॉर द शॉर्टर नोटिस, तो आपको डायरेक्टर का कंसेंट लेना पड़ेगा दैट द डायरेक्टर इज ओके विद द शॉर्टर नोटिस।
ओके।
सेम यही रिकॉर्ड्स आपके जब आप एजीएम या ईजीएम कंडक्ट कराते हैं, जो हम प्राइवेट कंपनीज में ऑन पेपर कभी भी करा देते हैं, ये रिकॉर्ड्स उनके लिए भी मैंडेटरी हैं। लाइक अटेंडेंस की कौन कौन आया, इफ आप शॉर्टर नोटिस पे करा रहे हो, ईजीएम एजीएम के लिए 21 डेज इन एडवांस का जाता है, 21 क्लियर डेज। तो वहां पर अगर आप एजीएम का या ईजीएम का नोटिस दे रहे हैं और वहां पर आप शॉर्टर नोटिस के लिए कंडक्ट कराना चाहते हैं, तो आपको इवन मिनिस्ट्री को भी कंसेंट फॉर शॉर्टर नोटिस देना होता है फॉर्म के अलोंग, अगर आप कुछ फाइल कर रहे हैं। और ये सारे डॉक्यूमेंट्स आपके पास ऑन रिकॉर्ड एवरी टाइम अवेलेबल होने चाहिए एट द रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस ऑफ द कंपनी इटसेल्फ। और एक और चीज जो मैंने देखा ही है कि अगर आप किसी कंपनी में डायरेक्टर नहीं है ऑन पेपर्स, आपके अगर मास्टर डेटा में, कंपनी के मास्टर डेटा में आपका नाम नहीं है, तो प्लीज अवॉइड यूजिंग विद योर नेम डायरेक्टर और द मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर, because you are legally not the director or the managing director of that company, because ये it is also an offense। तो बेटर है कि आप या तो ऑन बोर्ड आ जाएं या वहां से अपना नाम रिमूव कर लें।
अच्छा, I have a question here.
Yes, sir.
काफी जगह लिखते हैं जॉइंट मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर, मतलब आप कितने मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर के पोस्ट क्रिएट कर सकते हो?
सर मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर एक कंपनी में एक ही हो सकता है। सी
बहुत लोग
डायरेक्टर्स के
लिखते हैं
पास
joint
पावर्स
managing
होती है।
director लिखते हैं।
अब सर लिखने के लिए मैंने आपको बोला एक बंद मतलब आई नो अ पर्सन हु इज नॉट अ डायरेक्टर नॉट द मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर, बट इवन इफ ही इज मेंशनिंग ऑन हिज कार्ड दैट ही इज द मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर अकॉर्डिंग टू एक्ट। हाँ, आपकी कंपनी में एक ही मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर हो सकता है। इट्स लाइक डायरेक्टर के पास पावर होती है बट द मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर इज वेस्ट विद द सब्सटैंशियल पावर। और
तो
अगर
जॉइंट
आपके
मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर क्या होता है?
सर वो कंपनी का अपना अलग कंसेप्ट है जॉइंट मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर, क्योंकि कंपनी में एक ही
Is it allowed?
नो नो इट इज नॉट अलाउड।
joint
कंपनी में
managing director allowed?
एक ही मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर होता है। सी अगर आप फाइल भी कर रहे हैं मतलब एक ही मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर का फॉर्म यू कैन फाइल, यू कैन सी ऑन द वेबसाइट ऑफ द मिनिस्ट्री आल्सो। मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर तो कंपनी में एक ही अलाउड होता है, सेक्शन सेज सो।
ओके।
एनी मोर क्वेश्चंस?
एक और बात मैम, जैसे भी रजिस्टर आपने बोला मेंटेन करने का रजिस्टर ऑफिस पे पूरा, तो ये और कहीं फाइलिंग करना पड़ता है क्या?
नहीं नहीं सर, इसको कहीं फाइल नहीं करना पड़ता। इट इज फॉर योर रिकॉर्ड ओनली। मतलब एक्ट में लिखा है दैट यू आर सपोज टू मेंशन ऑल दीज रिकॉर्ड्स एट द सिंस द इंसेप्शन ऑफ द कंपनी इटसेल्फ। इसकी फाइलिंग कहीं नहीं होती है।
ओके।
बट इज इट कंपल्सरी कि ये रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस पे ही रिकॉर्ड मेंटेन करना पड़ता है?
रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस के लिए सर सी आपका कुछ फाइनेंशियल्स होते हैं जिसको आप आपकी कंपनी कहीं और मेंटेन है, रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस कहीं और है और आप उसका फाइनेंस कहीं और मेंटेन करते हो, मतलब अकाउंट्स ऑफ स्टेटमेंट्स उसका कहीं और मेंटेन हो रहा है। तो आप
हाँ।
फॉर्म फाइल करके एओसी 5 इज अ फॉर्म, आप वो फाइल करके एमसीए को इंटीमेट कर सकते हो कि हमारा रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस यहाँ है बट वी आर मेंटेनिंग आवर अकाउंट्स हियर। तो वो भी आपका डिपिक्ट हो जाता है आपके डेटा के अंदर। और सर वन मोर थिंग आई वुड लाइक टू शो, अगर पॉसिबल है तो आपकी किसी भी कंपनी का डेटा ठीक है या नहीं है मिनिस्ट्री के पास, यू कैन चेक विद एमसीए वेबसाइट। सी दिस इज द मास्टर डेटा। अगर किसी भी कंपनी के डेटा में कोई इशू है, लाइक आई वाज चेकिंग यस्टरडे, एक कंपनी का ऑथराइज्ड कैपिटल वाज लाइक 3
Madam, you
crores।
have to change your screen.
सॉरी सॉरी सर, ओके जस्ट अ सेकंड। इज इट ओके सर?
हाँ, हो गया हो गया।
Sir, it's mca.gov.in and then you go to master data and check the master data of any company. From here you will get to know who all are the directors of the company और उनका details भी। See, like this one. See, it's a listed company. This is the SIN number of the company. ठीक है, the company is a listed one. You can get the knowledge of the company from here itself कि basic company क्या है, actually में है भी या नहीं। And from the list of directors, you can find the name of the directors here. प्लस किसी कंपनी के पास कितना चार्ज क्रिएटेड है, लाइक आप बैंक के पास जाते हो तो बैंक को आप कुछ भी मतलब अगर आप हाइपोथिकेशन भी करते हैं, कोई भी व्हीकल लेते हैं लोन के लिए, तो बैंक आपसे चार्ज फॉर्म कराता है बीइंग अ कंपनी कि आप ये चार्ज का फॉर्म फाइल कर दीजिए। तो हाउ डू यू गेट टू नो कि किसी कंपनी के पास कितना बुक डेट भी, अगर आप बुक डेट्स भी लेना चाहते हैं किसी से, किसी कंपनी के पास, तो तब भी वो चार्ज का फॉर्म आपसे फाइल कराती है। तो किसी कंपनी के पास कितना अमाउंट है आउटस्टैंडिंग, वो आप यहाँ से देख सकते हो, मतलब कितने का उसने चार्ज क्रिएट किया हुआ है और वो भी ओपन या क्लोज स्टेटस से बताता है कि उसने पे ऑफ कर दिया है या नहीं किया है अभी तक। ठीक है, अनदर थिंग इज कि आप यहाँ से कि कंपनी में कौन मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर है, कौन डायरेक्टर है, यहाँ सिग्नेटरी डिटेल्स से यू कैन चेक। लाइक आई सेड कि एक कंपनी का मैं बता रही हूँ कि देयर इज अ पर्सन हु इज नॉट अ डायरेक्टर एट ऑल एंड डिपिक्टिंग एज अ मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर, तो यू कैन एनी टाइम चेक फ्रॉम हियर कि whether the person is true to his facts or not. It's taking time. See. I hope the session is not getting boring for anyone. Is it?
नहीं
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 नहीं, it's going good enough.
See, from here you can get the details of anyone. Like this person is the managing director of the company, she is the company secretary, and this person is the whole time director as well as the CFO of the company. So these are the basic details which you get to know about a company from this website only. मतलब उसके लिए बहुत ज्यादा आपको सर्च नहीं करना पड़ता, एक जगह से यू कैन गेट वेरी मच ऑफ द डेटा. वन मोर थिंग, ये इट्स लाइक बहुत कुछ कंपनीज ऐसी भी हैं जिनके रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस कहीं और हैं एंड दे आर ऑपरेटिंग फ्रॉम एनी अदर प्लेसेस, और रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस बंद है. लाइक इट्स हाँ, एक्चुअली इट हैपेंस कि कॉर्पोरेट ऑफिस तो फॉर एग्जांपल है आपका गाजियाबाद में और आपका रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस है दिल्ली में, तो इट्स लाइक एवरी स्टेट का एक आरओसी होता है, तो दिल्ली आरओसी इज डिफरेंट एंड गाजियाबाद आरओसी इज डिफरेंट. अगर आपका दिल्ली ऑफिस बंद है और कोई भी इंफॉर्मेशन जो आरओसी के पास आ रही है वो रिसीव नहीं कर पा रहा है, तो इट विल बी एन ऑफेंस एट योर एंड, बिकॉज रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस क्लॉज स्टेट्स दैट वो जगह मतलब दैट वेरी प्लेस where a ROC if sends any information the company is able to receive. In case अगर आप उस एक्चुअल प्लेस पे ऑपरेट नहीं कर रहे तो इट्स बेटर कि आप अपना आरओसी मतलब अपना रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस का एड्रेस एमसीए पर ही फॉर्म फाइल कर शिफ्ट करा लीजिए, रादर देन कि वो ऑफिस बंद करके मास्टर डेटा पे शो हो रहा है कि वो आपका ऑफिस है और आपको ऑपरेट किसी और ऑफिस से कर रहे हैं. सो ये दीज आर द पॉइंट्स मेरी साइड से जो मैंने पर्सनली प्रैक्टिकली देखा है कि ये सारी चीजें होती हैं विच शुड नॉट हैपन. आई जस्ट होप कि कुछ नॉलेज एनहांसमेंट आई हैव मेड.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. मैम एक और क्वेश्चन था.
जी सर.
जैसे कि अभी आपने बताया कि रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस इधर हो और कॉर्पोरेट ऑफिस अलग जगह हो, तो वो जैसे मेरे को चेंज करवाना है फॉर एग्जांपल, तो वो किसकी ड्यूटी है? यानी सीएस की ड्यूटी है या सीए को मेरे को बोलना पड़ेगा? जैसे हमारा अभी सीएस कोई नहीं है.
सर आप मेरे को बोल दीजिए, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. इट्स
नहीं, ये तो
लाइक
सिर्फ
आप सीए
एग्जांपल
को
है.
भी बोलेंगे. हाँ, मैं एग्जांपल दे देती हूँ. आपका जो भी कंप्लाइंस देख रहा है ना, लाइक अभी तो आपके पास आपकी प्राइवेट कंपनी है, अगर तो आपने एक फाइल दी होगी सीए को, तो वो सीए भी इंटर्न
करेक्ट.
किसी सीएस को ही वो काम डेलीगेट करेगा. और सीएस का हमारा टाई अप होता ही है कि जो भी सेक्रेटेरियल काम लाइक मिनिस्ट्री से रिलेटेड जो भी काम आता है तो वो
ओके
आ ही जाता है, तो वो सीएस फॉर्म साथ में ही जनरली काम करता है.
ओके ओके.
तो वो कोई इशू नहीं है, आप अपने सीए को बोलोगे वो करा भी देगा. सी
But-
कॉर्पोरेट ऑफिस होना और रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस होना दो अलग अलग चीजें हैं. रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस इज कि जो आपके मेमोरेंडम में मेंशन है और जो मिनिस्ट्री की वेबसाइट पे रिफ्लेक्ट कर रहा है. आपका कॉर्पोरेट ऑफिस बिना मिनिस्ट्री को बताए कुछ और भी हो सकता है, बट आपके रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस ऑपरेटिव होना चाहिए. उसके रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस के बाहर वो सारा डिटेल्स होना चाहिए कि ये आपका रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस है, और वहाँ कोई जना मतलब कोई होना चाहिए जो कि आपके डॉक्यूमेंट्स को रिसीव कर सके. प्लस जो डॉक्यूमेंट्स मैंने बोले, जो रजिस्टर्स, मिनट शीट्स, ये सब आपके पास होना चाहिए. बिकॉज व्हाट लॉ सेज इज कि मान लो आपका कोई ट्रांजैक्शन हुआ है, किसी का आपकी कंपनी में कोई ट्रांजैक्शन हुआ, मान लो XYZ कोई ट्रांजैक्शन हुआ है, आपको 4 साल बाद आपका वो केस कहीं लग जाता है कि ठीक है ये ट्रांजैक्शन हुआ था, आपके पास प्रूफ क्या है? आपके बिल्स को प्रूफ नहीं माना जाएगा एज अ कंपनी, आपका इनवॉइसेस को प्रूफ नहीं माना जाएगा एज अ कंपनी. व्हाट इज मेंशन इन योर मिनट शीट कि आपने ये ट्रांजैक्शन अप्रूव किया है एज अ बोर्ड ऑफ डायरेक्टर, वो आपका लास्ट जो आपका प्रूफ है वही माना जाएगा. मतलब इट्स लाइक कि मिनट्स में जो लिखा है बस वही सत्य है, बाकी सब झूठ है. कि वो बोर्ड ने अप्रूव करी है या नहीं करी है, वो सब आपका मिनट पे डिपेंड करता है। तो इसलिए आई एम एम्फेसाइजिंग कि आप लोग मिनट्स प्लीज मेंटेन करें, मतलब जिस भी लैंग्वेज में कर सकते हैं, या जिसको भी आपने काम आउटसोर्स किया हुआ है उनको बोलिए कि प्लीज हमारा मिनट्स जो है वो आप प्लीज मेंटेन करा कर दीजिए। लाइक आपके यहाँ क्या होता है, कभी भी किसी के यहाँ भी हो सकता है वो, तो आपने बैंक अकाउंट अगर आपने कहीं ओपन किया है तो आपको कोई एक रेजोल्यूशन तो मांगते ही होंगे ना,
हाँ
कि कोई कंपनी है तो उसका एक रेजोल्यूशन आप ला कर दीजिए, कौन सी बोर्ड मीटिंग में ये आपने प्लेस किया था, तो आप सर्टिफाइड कॉपी देते हैं। तो अगर आपने किसी को आउटसोर्स किया है तो आप वो ध्यान रखते हो कि उस दिन मैंने वो एक रेजोल्यूशन बैंक में दिया था, मुझे शायद इसको देना चाहिए। कोई देता है कि जिसको आपने काम आउटसोर्स किया है कि उसको ये रेजोल्यूशन मुझे देना चाहिए?
अभी तक तो नहीं।
तो उस फिर ये आपका प्रूफ नहीं हो पाएगा ना कि आपने उस दिन वो एक मीटिंग कंडक्ट की थी या नहीं की थी। सी, हम एनुअल रिटर्न फाइल करते हैं, MGT 7 इज ऑल अबाउट कि आपके डायरेक्टर्स के पर्टिकुलर्स क्या हैं, आपकी कंपनी में शेयर कैपिटल कितना है, वहीं से स्टार्ट होता है कि आपकी कंपनी में शेयर कैपिटल कितना है, कितना प्रमोटर के पास है, कितना पब्लिक शेयर होल्डिंग के पास है, कितना इक्विटी है, कितना प्रेफरेंस है, अगर इक्विटी प्रेफरेंस के अलावा कुछ और लाइक डिबेंचर्स है तो वो कितना है। ये सारे डिटेल्स हम एक फॉर्म है MGT 7 उसमें देते हैं। ठीक, उसके बाद पूरा साल में कितना आपका बोर्ड मीटिंग्स हुई हैं, अगर वो पूरा डिटेल्स की इस डेट का ये बोर्ड मीटिंग हुआ है, इस डायरेक्टर ने ये बोर्ड मीटिंग अटेंड किया है, इस डेट का हमारा लास्ट ईयर का AGM था और इस डायरेक्टर ने अटेंड किया है, ये सारी डिटेल्स हम वो फॉर्म में देते हैं। वो फॉर्म फाइनल है, हम मिनिस्ट्री को अपना हम लोग तो क्योंकि चेक नहीं करते हैं, CACS जिसके पास भी है वो डिजिटल मांग लेते हैं, वो डिजिटल फिक्स होते हैं और वो अपलोड हो जाते हैं। ठीक, पर जब आपने वहां पर मिनिस्ट्री को ये बता दिया कि हमारी ये बोर्ड मीटिंग की डेट्स हैं, बाय द एंड आपको ये पता ही नहीं है कि आपने ये रिजोल्यूशन पास कर दिया है और वो बोर्ड मीटिंग का डेट आपका एनुअल रिटर्न में फाइल हुई ही नहीं है, तो क्या प्रूफ है कि आपकी बोर्ड मीटिंग हुई है? कोई प्रूफ नहीं है, क्योंकि आपकी जो जो बोर्ड मीटिंग हुई है वो तो आप मिनिस्ट्री के पास फाइल कर चुके हैं, और फाइल डॉक्यूमेंट ही आपका एक प्रूफ माना जाता है कि यही एविडेंस है क्योंकि मिनिस्ट्री के पास फाइल्ड हुआ है। तो जो भी आप रेजोल्यूशन ऐसे ही बिना अपने किसी भी कंसल्टेंट या CACS जो भी है उनको बिना बताए पास करते हैं, तो प्लीज उनको इस बात का इंटीमेशन दीजिए कि इस दिन हमने ये रेजोल्यूशन पास किया था जिसका कॉपी हमने यहाँ फाइल किया है, प्लीज आप उसका टेक नोट कर लीजिएगा कि ये डेट की मीटिंग हुई थी। पॉसिबल है तो प्लीज मिनट्स भी बनवाइए। एनी अदर क्वेश्चन सर?
मैम, आपने वो फॉर्म 5 का बोला था कि बिलिंग एड्रेस या जो हम लोग जहाँ पे काम कर रहे हैं वो डिफरेंट है, कि मेरा रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस के अलावा मैं कहीं और से ऑपरेट कर रहा हूँ।
कॉर्पोरेट ऑफिस?
हाँ, कॉर्पोरेट
अच्छा
ऑफिस।
अच्छा AOC 5 के लिए बोला था।
हाँ
लाइक
हाँ,
इट इज फॉर कि आप अपना अकाउंट्स जो है रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस पे नहीं मेंटेन कर रहे हो, या
ओके
आप अपना बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स कहीं और अगर आप मेंटेन कर रहे हैं तो आप कर सकते हैं वो, बट उसके लिए आपको मिनिस्ट्री के पास एक फॉर्म फाइल करना पड़ता है विच इज कॉल्ड एज AOC 5, जिसका जैसे मैंने अभी मास्टर डेटा दिखाया वहां पे वो रिफ्लेक्ट करता है।
ओके।
एनी क्वेश्चंस? Just one more awareness, not about the compliances. There is thing called as POSH Act, Prevention of Sexual Harassment at Workplace. Right? वो act, this particular act is applicable to all. Even हमारे घर में मेड्स आती हैं, we as an employer हमारे लिए भी वो applicable है। तो जिनके यहाँ भी 10 से ज्यादा एम्प्लॉइज हैं, I request them to please make a internal complaint committee, और if possible आप एक सेशन अरेंज करा दीजिए सो दैट पीपल कैन टेक बेनिफिट ऑफ दिस एक्ट, क्योंकि सबको इसके बारे में नॉलेज नहीं है। एंड आई एम सेइंग दिस बिकॉज आई एम आल्सो अ पोस्ट ट्रेन।
Yes, Palash bhai has like last time also Palash bhai told
Yes,
that
yes.
they'll be planning a session on this.
So this is also awareness because it is required. यहाँ पर in Delhi and Gurugram, this government is making it compulsory to file a return. 30th January is the last date for every financial year. Like for January to December next year, 30th January is the last date to file this return. इट सेज कि आपके पास कितना सेक्सुअल हरासमेंट का कंप्लेंट आया है इसके पास, कंपनी के पास, आपने कितना उसको रिजॉल्व किया है और कितनी पेंडिंग है, वो सारा डिटेल्स यू नीड टू गिव. तो हियर इन दिल्ली एंड गुड़गांव the government is making it compulsory, so they are taking steps, so we should also take some.
मैम एक और चीज पूछनी थी मेरे को.
जी सर.
एक कोई छोटा सा चेकलिस्ट ऐसा कुछ मिल सकता है क्या जो नॉर्मल प्राइवेट लिमिटेड को फॉलो करना चाहिए, कुछ ऐसा कुछ?
यस यस, आई दूंगी मैं. I'll mail it to you or WhatsApp, whatsoever you like to.
ठीक है.
Any more questions or we'll end this session?
Yes.
किसी को कोई सवाल पूछना है तो पूछ लो.
Now the session is open for Q&A. Please go ahead.
मैम ये स्क्रीन शेयरिंग बंद कर दो तो सबके फेसेस प्रॉपर्ली दिखे.
Sure.
Aman bhaiya, I had one question that was related to like I don't know, section 80G होता है क्या होता है वो? When you make donations for this what do you say? Right. Even if those are anonymous donations, like we should take that receipt or something, right?
हाँ. एक सेकंड ना. सॉरी. हाँ, वो उसको सेक्शन 80G का डोनेशन बोलते हैं. उसमें whenever you contribute, और अभी तो वैसे भी इनकम टैक्स एक्ट में अमेंडमेंट आया, जब तक सामने वाला जो चैरिटेबल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, जैसे एक टीडीएस का रिटर्न होता है वैसे एक डोनेशन का भी रिटर्न आया है. तो ईयर एंड में जब तक वो ट्रस्ट वो डोनेशन का इनकम रिटर्न फाइल नहीं करेगा, आपको आपके इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न में वो डिडक्शन नहीं दिखाई देगा. तो सेफर साइड होने के लिए एज अ प्रूफ आपने उनको भरा है, आप उनसे वो रिसीट एक ले लिया करो, डोनेशन.
Right.
Aman ji, I have a question here.
Yeah.
So, there was a recent thing in this budget कि CSR एक्टिविटीज पे जो भी हम एक्सपेंस करते हैं उसका GST भी नॉट क्लेम बैक. Is it confirmed or is still under?
अभी देखो, वो अभी एक्ट तो पास हो गया, अभी रिप्रेजेंटेशंस जा रहे हैं. अब लेट्स सी गवर्नमेंट क्या करती है. पर वैसे भी उसका लाइक इनकम टैक्स से कुछ लेना देना नहीं है वो. वैसे
GST claim back, if some company is spending a lot of money on CSR,
I know.
either they are getting services or they are buying products for distribution, तो पहले उस पे GST claim कर सकती थी. अभी I think in this
budget, they have restricted the claim. और वैसे भी उसका इनकम टैक्स एक्ट में तो वैसे ही CSR का खर्चा अलाउड नहीं है. आई गेस वो GST लॉ और इनकम टैक्स लॉ को एक लाइन में रखने के लिए इसलिए वो लोग ने
अलग हो जाता है.
भी डिसअलाउ कर दिया.
Okay, thanks.
There was one question from Bhavik Ramani of 19 Bar.
I replied to him.
Okay, done. Equity script वाला, right?
हाँ, इक्विटी वाला.
Done.
और कुछ पूछना है पूछ लो, कल से पैसा लगेगा. नहीं, मजाक कर रहा हूँ.
चेष्टा दी, आप स्क्रीन बंद कर दो भले एक बार, सबके फेस दिखा लेते हैं फिर.
एक्चुअली निमित आपको वो देखना था ना, AIS और TIS.
हाँ,
वो एक्चुअली वो प्रोटेक्टेड शीट है ना, तो मैं उसके फिगर्स और नाम हाइड नहीं कर पा रहा हूँ. maybe I'll connect with you personally and I'll guide you कि आप खुद कैसे डाउनलोड कर सकते हो.
ओके ओके.
अभी गया.
नहीं, चेस्टा मैम शेयर स्क्रीन पे जाके क्लिक करो तो उसमें आएगा.
स्टॉप शेयरिंग कर.
अरे ये ना रिज्यूम शेयरिंग का ही ऑप्शन है मेरे पास, स्टॉप शेयरिंग का ऑप्शन है नहीं.
हाँ अभी
हो
बंद.
गया. अंकुश भैया फेस दिखाओ, वैभव भैया तो आप चले जाए. वैभव भैया. Everyone, please show your faces.
हो गए हैं सब कंप्लाइंसेस के नाम पर.
चेष्टा दीदी का नाम 2 बार आ रहा है.
Pro
यस,
account.
2 अकाउंट से ज्वाइन किया है.
चलो अच्छा, पार्टिसिपेशन ज्यादा दिखेगा.
कुछ भी.
ठीक है फिर बंद करते हैं और कोई क्वेरीज नहीं है.
ओके, तो we'll end the session. And before that, पलाश भाई, आप vote of thanks and होली का greetings दे दो सबको.
So wish you happy Holi and happy Diwali, all of you. And
हैप्पी होली.
thanks a lot, Chesta and Aman, for coming. And we had a well planned session, and it was at all up to the mark. और बहुत जन को मुझे लग रहा है इसके बाद भी आपके फोन और कॉल्स आना शुरू हो जाएंगे. और बहुत अच्छा इंसाइट था दोनों के लिए, और सभी को आज अच्छा लगा मेरे हिसाब